So I'm thinking about the clarification of roles. Clarification of roles. To what extent are you a hunter or a farmer in how you're going after R to bring back to feed the tribe? If you're focusing on animals of protein, are you a trapper or are you a rancher? In other words, are you raising cattle systematically and being a good steward of the herd and doing life cycle management with the things you're expert in, with full respect for the animal that you care for, part of the cycle of nature? Or are you a trapper going out to, you know, capture wild animals where they typically run to bring back to feed the tribe? If you're working with vegetables, are you gathering nuts and berries in a little basket, going to where they are, trying to find them, then pick them and then bring them back? Or are you farming? And if you're farming, are you farming in a little vegetable garden, or are you trying to perform agriculture at scale and size? So it seems to me that on any given trade, you're trying to do one of those things, or in a system, you're trying to do one of those things. And each one of those points of view or perspectives has its own techniques and skills and habits and attitudes. So you should be clear on the role that you're playing. With respect to adding risk, I would like you to think of it as dollars at risk and as a percentage of capital, and not in terms of widening or narrowing the dollars per share that represents 1R. In other words, what I mean is, if you're in a critical state at a doji near a critical turning point or a typical turning point, and you're playing the SSC, your goal is to minimize the size of the 1R, dollars per share, in order to prove the hypothesis wrong. Like, if I can get that critical state MMRB down to $1 and I can risk $400, then I can buy 400 shares. The weight that it's carrying, the risk to the portfolio, is the $400. The dollars at risk is the risk, not the dollars per share, which triggers the signal that tells me that that hypothesis is not working. As long as that 1R is equal to 1R, then you have simply calibrated the experiment in terms of go and no-go. But the risk that it's carrying is the dollars that you've put onto that system. How strong is the axle? How strong is the frame that protects you, that you can manage and handle professionally? You're pulling a wagon full of dollars at risk through the territory of the trade. And you've got to manage that wagon up and down hills, over bridges, around corners. And can you manage that amount of weight in that trade? Or is that too much? So how much load are you putting on? That's the risk. When in the course of managing a wagon, or the size of the truck that I'm driving, Tom, what's the size of the trailer that I can back professionally between two other trailers up to the loading dock, or navigate through traffic? Can I take the risk of driving a bus through Chicago rush hour and downtown with a load of people at 70 miles an hour with 2 inches of clearance on either side and 5 feet of following distance? Because if I give them more than 5 feet, somebody's going to weasel in. So the risk I'm carrying is the number of people in the bus, the dollars at risk on the trade. So be clear on the difference between the amount of adverse price action that signals that the hypothesis is over. That's not risk. That's just a signal. The risk is how much load you put on it. That's the difference between paper trading and skin in the game. Unless for you, being right in paper trading carries the same emotional weight as losing money. To me, it's easier if I want to represent a realistic trading result and I'm concerned about losing money only, then I got to put money into the prototype or the experiment or the forward test in order to have the kind of information I need to understand how I react to the trade when I'm losing money. Because I'm not even thinking of it in terms of being right or wrong, in terms did the trade win or not. Being right or wrong to me now is, did I make the decisions that I'm supposed to according to the style of trade and the rules of the trade that I'm trying to execute? And then that's not so much being right or wrong, it's being precise and accurate and correct and proper, as opposed to, I picked the direction right. Well, flip a coin, I would say, the balancing of exploring versus exploiting really is how it always comes down to how we are navigating through the landscape of the trading enterprise or the trading project, trying to cross no man's land with a wagon full of my capital. And I'm trying to grow the capital as I journey and protect the capital against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And one of the things that I have to do is find efficient ways to drive the wagon through that landscape in a way that gets me there. So I've got to exploit the advantages that I have with my team. And at the same time, I've got to explore that landscape with my scouts so I can find things along the way that adds to my capital. I got to add water and food and maybe some gold and hunt for some animals. So I propose to be better at the end of that journey by growing along the way, as opposed to just starting from here and trying to get from there and seeing how much I lose along the way. And there's a certain amount of capital preservation that I got to have. But at the same time, I've got to grow that capital on this journey through no man's land. So in order to do that, it costs me money to explore. I put dollars at risk to go out and see what's there, to see if there's any gold in that mine, if there's any water in that well, if I can grow crops in the soil, if I can endure, raids. So exploring and exploiting, we've got to exist in both of those mental models. In exploiting, I'm trying to maximize the return on a quantifiable edge through best practices at least cost with managed risk. I'm exploiting my edge for production. In exploring, I'm spending the minimum amount of capital, time, money, attention, reputation, focus. I'm spending the minimum amount of capital in order to understand the risks and opportunities of a new area. So we've got to account for both of those. One of the advantages of being in a tribe is that when you got good scouts, let them scout. When you've got good production engineers, let them produce. And do you have to be expert at all of those? Well, you tell me. And if you feel you have to be expert in all of those, why do you feel that way? Are there other ways in which that we could get across no man's land together as a tribe? How do we do that? What are the qualities of a group that you would want to be in when you're making that kind of adventure. So choose your team wisely. What can you do with the energy you feel when you realize you don't have a satisfying answer to a trading question? Let me say that again. You've been asked a trading question. You listen to your own answer in public the best you can. And that feeling about your answer, once you've heard it, generates a feeling. And that feeling has energy. So set aside for the moment, what do you mean by satisfying, and what would it take to be satisfying? Address that at another moment. But what is the name of the feeling? And where does the source of that feeling versus another feeling? Could I have had a different feeling about that answer? Could I have chosen my feeling? Could I think about the feeling and repurpose it? How do I feel about recognizing the feeling? Can I use my mind to shift the direction of the music that has emerged into the direction I want it to go? Can I put the energy of the initial feeling to work through intention? Can I do something with the gift that came to me in the form of energy, regardless of the source? Hey, what if that gift of energy and emotion was just an anonymous gift? Your secret Santa just handed you a great big battery of energy. Is it necessary for you to fully explore and understand where it came from and why and all that other stuff? Or could you just do something with a gift of energy? Hey, Ken, I walked out this morning and somebody put $1,000 of cash in an envelope on my front step and said, do something with this as you see fit. Well, what am I supposed to do with that? Turn it into the cops and have them do forensic evidence to figure out where it came from? And, well, I guess that matters on who your cops are and what you think about them and what you think about the potential of $1,000 in the world that came with no strings attached. Or were there any strings attached? Are the strings that are attached the things that you put on it as you watch yourself deciding what to do with that $1,000 in an envelope? Can you store that energy that comes to you from a feeling, and can you do something with it? I suppose if I found an envelope with money on it, at some point I'd have to be concerned about where it came from and the rightful owner. But when it comes to the feelings that I've been given, I'm already beginning to make an assumption and taking a position about the energy and the feelings that come to me. Since I don't control them, I'm not sure where they come from, except that I get them. Was that feeling a learned response to a certain situation that was installed in me? Or was that the natural consequence of the way my subconscious works over time as it has been randomly trained by the environment? I don't know. Thinking about it. Meanwhile, I got a bundle of energy and I'm going to do something positive with it. Maybe the right thing to do with $1,000 found on your doorstep in an envelope is to give it to duly constituted authority and then be engaged in your community so you get the right people in those positions and do something about that money with accountability so it doesn't go into feed, graft, and corruption, but is... So you got to investigate what the tribe does with those kind of found. Anyway, I diverge. What is the source of the energy that comes with the feeling? And is that as important as what do I do with the energy of the feelings when I'm unencumbered by the source? What can I do to disassociate the energy that has arisen with the circumstances that caused it to arise? That's really a strong idea to explore. I'd like you to think about each question, each trading question that comes through these exercises as just a section in your garden for you to grow some crops, or a room in the trading house that you're building in which that has a purpose or whatever. And so every answer is simply you acknowledging where you are in that plot in your garden or in that room in your house. And that's just the work in progress. That's just where I am. That's not where I came from, and it's not where I may end up going, but it is where I am, and that's information that you can act on with courage and conviction and purpose and intention. And that's just another gift in the same way that feelings that you feel as a result of circumstances are simply something for you to do something with or not. Your choice to live an intentional life. And what are you going to do with the information, your answers, and your energy, what was generated by the feelings that you felt? That's for you to decide. That's something you can work with. And by work, I mean moving physical things through time and space to different positions. That's the definition of work. You change the location of things in the universe. Even if that's yourself, moving to a different spot. That is work. And for some of us, you're moving, 100 kilos through time and space. That takes more energy and effort, and that's more work than other things. So how heavy is the weight that you're moving? That's the risk, is the weight of the object in the wagon you are pulling. Can you start with smaller weights? Can you start with baby steps? Can you learn to walk? Yeah, we learn to walk. We're walking. So do something with the information and the energy you've been given. Be grateful for the gifts. Ask for forgiveness and forgive yourself for the work that you're going to attempt to do, and learn from the results of the work that you did. That's all. Doesn't have to be harder than that. I mean, lifting the weight itself is enough. Let that be the thing that you do with the information, the energy, is lifting the weight. Getting stronger in order to lift more weights, or doing projects with the weight that you're lifting that also has a tangible payoff. Lifting the weight makes your body stronger. That's a tangible payoff. Got to do that right, or you hurt yourself by trying to do too much. It took me a year to recover from the idiotic overreach that I did with some weightlifting, because it was more important in my ego to try to do this thing, and it was like, well, that just happened. Could see that coming in retrospect. In 1 second you realize what the next year you're going to be thinking about when you try to do too much. So don't do too much. Doc, it hurts when I do this. So don't do that. Regain the range of motion through therapy and whatnot. So those are the points that I wanted to make. Let me hit the gong, and I'm pretty excited about this little Fathom AI note taker. It looks pretty interesting. I'll share it with you when I get done. It was kind of astonishing. All right, nice work again today. I'm going to hit the gong and move us, to the doorway back into the foyer. So I'm going to ask you to listen to the resonances and feel for the power word that comes to mind. And let me finish up first of all by telling you my one true story from this week. So I gave about a 15-minute discussion to these academics about true storytelling, and I talked about safety, trust, truth, and opportunity and the reverse engineering. Hey, you want an opportunity to transform the world? Of course you do. But it has to be based on the truth, validated in some way. And before you can get to the truth, you have to trust the people you're working with and yourself to uncover things about the world and to take the risk of trying to discover the truth. You have to do that on trust. That you can investigate dark places but not fall into a pit, and that you can come out of that. And why do you take that risk of because I'm anchored to a safe space. So the preconditions for opportunity to transform the world, I have to have truth to build on, but I got to have trust first in order to discover the truth, and I have to be anchored in a safe place in order to be able to trust, in order to investigate the truth, in order to find an opportunity, maybe, to transform the world. Everybody wants to change the world. Not many people want to do the work that it takes to plan, prepare, execute, and assess. So I told that little story in an experiential way with people and asked them to listen. I told them at the start of it that at the end of these 15 minutes, I'm going to ask you for one word and invite you to share that if you wish, knowing that we're all interested in what word resonated the most with you, and that it would help us if you gave us that gift. So we gave it a try. We went through the thing, and and they came up with the different one-word responses, much like we're going to do. The next day in our business meeting for the organization on its 50th anniversary, they called up all the old-timers, all the ancient fellows who'd been there for 30 years or more, and we're asking them about what they thought about the future for directions of our organization, which grew up in business simulations and digital economic models to help business people understand the world. But we feel like there's a new path ahead. And the guy who's been there the longest, Professor Precha Thavakolwat, said in his quiet way, I believe that the way forward is what Ken taught me yesterday, that the formula was safety, trust, truth, and opportunity, and gave about a 30-second summary of the things that he had learned. And I stood up and said, for the win, from your lips to God's ears. When Precha talks in his quiet way, everybody listens, because that dude is solid. And everybody that was in the smaller session with me kind of looked over at me, gave me a thumbs up. I said, yeah, this is some of that experiential learning of being in the moment and trusting others in public is what it takes, I think, one of the ways in which you build the tribe to help pull that load together. And so I wanted to share that had a really profound effect on that room full of academics from all around the world, and is leading me to establish a project this year for them where I do monthly true story circles and open office hours to check in to help them learn the techniques of true storytelling and creativity within their domain so that they can experience it, write about it, and we pull together a project for next year with some evidence-based work in progress about our organization trying to do good things in the world. I'm very excited about that. That doesn't happen if I don't drive 1,000 miles to Pittsburgh to go have prime rib with Damien and my family and meet my cousin. So when you can multitask like that and start stacking up intentions and bringing things together in time and space. That is efficient exploration. So I said efficiency or exploitation versus exploration. There's an efficient way to do both of those by stacking, and that's part of your plan. And you can prepare to do that stuff, and you can execute it, and then you can assess how to do that. So I'm going to write some notes of what happened on that week, and I'm going to get a ton of leverage out of the one-page set of notes that I write for that. And I've got about 5 or 6 different demographics that I'm already figuring out how I'm going to use that artifact to shape their thoughts about the stories I'm going to tell about that conference. So, wheels within wheels within wheels, you start learning to stack up. That's like taking second and third positions when the thing starts working for you, and when it could have failed and would have reasonably failed, but it didn't, the R10 wiggle and an emerging dragon, that's the next leg. Bam, second position right away. Now, I teach you how to do that. Wait till you have 2R in hand and all that other stuff. But sometimes you see me executing sooner than that. That's why. But that's a power move with a power tool. And be careful with power tools. But that's where that is. That's where that's coming from. Is learning how close to the edge I can safely go. And by safe, I mean that I'm anchored to a safe spot, and that safe spot is an unbreakable tether that is based on position sizing. So even if it's the worst possible outcome, I know exactly how much territory that's going to cause me to lose, or how much weight I'm going to lose from the capital, and it's an acceptable risk. So that's the story I wanted to tell about safety. That's the story I wanted to tell about the safety, trust, truth, and opportunity. And I said it again in that way because I was clicking the bookmark so that it would anchor its synthesis of the last few minutes around that central idea. Because I'm checking out how Fathom does as a note taker. I'm also going to investigate to see if I can have it retro summarize previous audios by simply going into a room, a Zoom room, and then playing the recording as if it was a presentation, and then see if it could, hit that highlight, and automatically generate some effort. And intelligent use of AI, which was one of the central themes that we explored in that conference this weekend, which has me very excited. Because I'm going to investigate how to make the best version of me as a teaching assistant by trying to use things like ChatGPT and now perhaps this Fathom to go back through my hundreds of pages of FAQs and hundreds of hours of videos to organize that better than just telling people to go search on their own. I think I can do better than that. And maybe I can make the AI summarize the positions I might take on an answer to a question in a better way than my brain at that moment. Maybe I'm tired or grumpy or frustrated because that's the 15th time I've heard that question. I always work hard on trying to respect each question as the genuine gift in that moment, and I do my best on that, but maybe the AI can do an even better version of that because it doesn't get tired or have personal shortcomings like that I have. So I'm going to be investigating AI this year and better coaching and trying to use AI as a model for good. In fact, that's what I told Angus Fletcher, that the $100 million AI project with DARPA that he was working on to come up with a war game to test different AI planning systems was instead to have them design an AI that would help people learn their fastest and bestest all the time as a learning assistant, that was a better use of their money as opposed to coming up with an AI that could assess the enemy and figure out what kind of a plan to have to defeat them. I said, you'd be better off using the AI to help in a planned way to make you better prepared to execute at some moment when you don't have the AI. Because if I rely on the AI for execution, then there may come a time when the enemy is able to strip the AI away. And now I'm frozen because I don't have any onboard skills. So much like a wing tank can extend the range of an aeroplane, I think about an AI learning assistant in that way. But my safety is to be able to rely on my own brain if that's all I'm left with, hands and feet and all that stuff. So that's sort of my project this year, to think about AI as a learning device, which now has immediate and obvious implications for trading. There's a lot of different ways that we can use AI for that. So that was my work in progress personally from this week, and the powerful story of safety, trust, truth, and opportunity in my view. So I wanted to get that on the record as my contribution. So I'm going to ask you now to think about your power word and realize why that's so darn important, because that's the way we sort of acknowledge where we were and where we are, and that's information to use going forward. You know, you should be grateful for whatever word that is that comes up. Not like saying, God, I wish I could come up with a better word. Really? Really? On Christmas, when your kids give you a gift, you're going to say, I sure wish that you had given me a better gift than that. I really deserve more than that. Really? Is that what we're going to say? No, we're not. You're gonna listen to the word that comes bubbling up as the gift that it actually is, and forgive yourself for the emotion that you'll feel, I guess, gratitude for the gift, and then an intention to do something with it so that the people may thrive. So here we go, listening for the word.